Welcome back, little ones. This is the next issue of the Pooka Pages. This issue is about Litha. Other people have pronounced it Litha, but whichever way your group pronounces it is just fine. This day is also known as MidSummer or the summer solstice. This is the longest day of the year when we celebrate the peak of the sun's power. From now until Yule, the days grow shorter and shorter. Fires are lit to honor the life-giving forces of the sun. Water rituals encourage rain during the hot months ahead. This is the perfect time to have an outdoor celebration with barbecues, bonfires, and water games. Midsummer Eve is one of the times during the year when fairies and other nature spirits especially love to frolic. It's customary to leave offerings for them, such as food or milk, set out in the evening. Let's start in the storybook chair. This one's called MidSummer Celebrations. The firewood is ready, announced Nathan as he entered the kitchen. Elsie looked up from putting finishing touches on a strawberry and spinach salad. Great Aunt Tilly glanced over her shoulder from the stove. "You got it all carried up and stacked on the hill?" she asked. The dark-haired boy grinned. "I even took my fishing pole up so Pooka and I can catch some for the feast." "Meow! Me too," cried Pooka's little brother, Grimalkin. "I want to help." "Yeah, you'll only help scare the fish away when you fall in the water," snorted Pooka from his rocking chair throne. "Well, not," pouted Grimalkin. Aunt Tilly scooped up her little familiar in training and put him on her shoulder. "Where's that pesky pixie?" "Thistle and the other fairies are getting ready for their own midsummer celebration," Nathan said. "But my grandmother's coming. She said she'd meet us up there." A short while later, Elsie's red wagon was piled with blankets and food, and Grimalkin perched on top. Nathan pulled the wagon up a winding path leading to the top of a tall hill that overlooked the forest. Elsie and Aunt Tilly followed, with Pooka trotting alongside, and Edgar, Elsie's crow, keeping pace overhead. When they reached the top, Nathan's grandmother was waiting with a big pitcher of ice-cold lemonade. "What took you kids so long?" she teased. "I'm no kid," retorted Aunt Tilly, "and that hill is steep." She fanned her face with her broad-brimmed pointy hat and then settled her purple skirts on the blanket next to her friend. "Any meat in that big basket next to you?" she asked. Grandmother winked as she poured Aunt Tilly a glass of sweet honey wine, and then, pretending it was an afterthought, she poured one for herself. From their vantage point at the top of the hill was a clear view of the valley, farms, and distant village below. Beyond the hills, on the other side of the valley, they would see the sun setting in all its midsummer glory. "Ready to go fishing?" Nathan grabbed his pole and headed back down the hill toward the creek. Pooka galloped after him, and the kitten, Grimalkin, brought up the rear. Elsie sat down with the two women and gave her great aunt a hug. "I'm so glad you could join us for midsummer," she sighed happily. "Well, dear, with your Uncle Tiberius off at that big antiquarian book fair of his, it seemed the perfect opportunity." Grandmother rose and began wandering the hill, picking flowers and green ferns. Elsie and Aunt Tilly joined her. Soon they were seated again on the blanket, weaving head wreaths. They were just finishing when Nathan, Pooka, and a very wet Grimalkin rejoined them. The dripping kitten settled into Aunt Tilly's lap, creating a sizable puddle in her skirts. "He fell in the creek, so no fish," announced Pooka in a "I told you so" voice. Aunt Tilly grabbed a corner of the blanket and used it to dry off her little cat. Elsie noticed the midsummer sun was beginning to set. "I think it's time to light the bonfire." She passed out the head wreaths that she, Grandmother, and Aunt Tilly had made. Pooka's wreath was cocked over one ear, and Grimalkin's was too big, ended up around his scrawny gray neck. But no matter. They both loved them. The fire blazed high, and Elsie began strumming her banjo mandolin. Pooka recognized the tune and began to sing. When she danced on the waters and the wind was her horn, the lady laughed and everything was born. She lit the sun and its light gave him birth. The lord of the dance then appeared on the earth. Dance then wherever you may be, for I am the lord of the dance, said he. Meow, 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 purr, meow, 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 purr, purr. They all began dancing around the fire as they sang, their steps and music weaving magic to bring fertility to the land and crops. Edgar spread his large black wings and flew around their circle, cawing, "Caw, caw, caw." One song led to another. Elsie tossed handfuls of loose incense into the fire. Sparks and fragrances of honeysuckle rose, and a mysterious green sweetness filled the air. Meanwhile, the sun dipped lower, streaking the sky with purple, red, and gold as it dropped below the horizon. The dancers finally collapsed on blankets around the bonfire. "I'm hungry," announced Pooka. Edward cawed his agreement. Grimalkin said, "I'm starving." And Aunt Tilly chided him fondly, saying, "You were always starving." "I could eat," admitted Nathan. Elsie nodded. "Me too." They began unpacking their feast by the light of the fire. "Am I late?" squeaked a voice overhead. "Is there any food left?" Thistle the fairy fluttered above them. You're just in time for the food, as usual," said Aunt Tilly in her gruff voice. But she smiled broadly, pleased to see her old friend. "Come on down, dear. There's plenty," smiled Grandmother serenely. Afterward, they told stories, recited poems, and sang more songs as Elsie strummed her mandolin. Afterward, the little witch produced a bag of marshmallows from her pack. They each stuck one on a long stick and roasted them over the fire until they were a lovely golden brown. Thistle the fairy was so excited. It was her first time toasting marshmallows, and she nearly got her dinky face stuck in the gooey sweetness while trying to take a bite. Edgar the crow happily pecked at his until it was gone, and then asked for more. When they finally made their sleepy way down the winding path from the hill toward the cottage, Pooka thought about what a wonderful day they'd had. He was secretly glad that Grimalkin was there to share it with him. He didn't even mind that his brother had fallen in the creek and scared all the fish away. Well, maybe just a little bit. Elsie's herb garden. A panicked Pooka scooted fast as he could through the open door of the cottage. His paws skidded on the hardwood floor as he made a sharp left turn into the hallway, and a moment later he exploded through the entrance to the kitchen. "Elsie, come quick!" he cried. The startled witch at the stove nearly dropped her spoon. "Why? What is it?" The cat paused, catching his breath a moment before announcing, "Humongous, ginormous flowers, almost as tall as the cottage, and their faces big as dinner plates, bigger even. They just appeared out of nowhere. It must be some evil sorcery. They're going to eat up the rest of our garden. Quick, Elsie, help me save the catnip." To his dismay, the girl began laughing. "Pooks, they're just sunflowers." Pooka stared in astonishment. "The sun god sent them? Why does the sun hate our garden?" Elsie, red-faced from laughing, wiped the tears of mirth from her eyes with a corner of her apron. "The sun god didn't send them," she told her cat. "I planted them. You just didn't notice their green stalks and leaves shooting up against the trees along the edge of the garden. But now they're starting to bloom, so you saw them." Pooka sat down abruptly like a suddenly deflated balloon. "Oh," he said, and then added, "So they're not gonna gobble up our garden." The witch shook her head, smiling. "In fact, sunflowers are good in so many ways." Pooka knew he was about to get a lesson, but it was one he was curious to learn. He followed Elsie back out to the garden. She pointed at the large yellow flowers whose faces were indeed bigger than her own. "The flowers are sacred to the sun god. In the morning, their faces point east, watching for him to rise. Then, throughout the day, their faces follow the sun across the sky until he sets and disappears in the west. Then, during the night, they turn east again and wait for him to rise." Pooka was impressed. "Wow, that's really cool," he said. "There's more," Elsie continued. "The centers of those big flowers will soon get filled with seeds which are really yummy to eat." "Wait!" cried Pooka. "The village cafe puts sunflower seeds on their salads. Are you saying that those come from this big yellow flower?" The girl nodded. "Yes, you could roast them and then sprinkle them on just about anything. Veggies, pasta, breads, muffins. Kids even love eating roasted, salted sunflower seeds straight from the shell as a snack." "Okay, tell me some more," ordered the cat. Elsie grinned. "The seeds can also help lower blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar. That's why Great Aunt Tilly uses them, besides the fact that they're tasty. She also crushes the leaves and uses them as a poultice for Uncle Tiberius's arthritis. The poultice is good for any other painful swelling too, like from sprains or bug bites. The leaves are harvested and dried just as the plants are starting to flower and can be made into a tea that's good for the same thing. They help your body fight the inflammation causing the swelling and pain from the inside. So ideally, you use both the poultice and the tea." "Wow, that makes sense," agreed Pooka. Elsie continued. "The tea also helps when you have any sort of cough or bronchial infection." Pooka stopped her. "Bronchial?" he asked. It was a big word. "Anything to do with your lungs, your breathing bits," said Elsie. The cat nodded. "Okay, go on." "When you have a bunch of junk in your chest, a tea made of sunflower leaves can help you cough it out. It's called an expectorant." "Sounds like it might be good for getting rid of hairballs," Pooka said, and made a mental note. Elsie grinned. "Tea made from the leaves and flowers is also good for sore throats and bringing down a really high fever. Did you know you can even make paper out of the stalks of a sunflower? And the oil, pressed from the seeds, is used in making candles and soaps, as well as tasty salad dressings and massaging sore muscles. And sunflower oil is great for the skin and reduces inflammation. You can even cook with it and use it in salad dressings." "Wow!" Pooka was impressed and looked up at the tall flowers with a new respect. "I guess this giant flower really does belong in our herb garden. And it really does look like the sun. So, shall we pick some of the sunflower's yellow petals for our Litha salad?" asked Elsie with a twinkle in her eye. "We'd be fools not to," exclaimed her cat. "Can we add some of the seeds also?" As a side note, Elsie says, "Sunflowers growing in a garden will bring good luck to your home. Plant sunflower seeds in a sunny spot away from any other seed you're trying to sprout. They are jealous and territorial. Your other seedling babies won't stand a chance. Sunflowers also like plenty of organic nutrients on a regular basis because they grow fast." The Wee Witchling read-along story. Won't you guys read along with me? Pooka wandered around to the back of the cottage where Elsie was hanging the laundry on the clothesline. "And thank you, sun, for drying the laundry," he said. "Pooka," asked Elsie, "what are you doing?" "I'm thanking the sun for everything it does," said Pooka. "I'm thanking the sun for growing the flowers, the trees, and our food. Let's see, what else? A bee flew by. "Oh yeah," exclaimed Pooka. "Thank you, Sun, for helping the bees make honey." "How about vitamin D?" suggested Elsie. "Your body needs it, and you get it from the sun." "Thank you, Sun, for giving me vitamin D," said Pooka. "And the sun is helping me make some iced tea today," Elsie said. "Thank you, Sun, for helping to make our iced tea," said Pooka. Then he added, "You know what else the sun does? It makes me be in a happy mood." "Me too," laughed Elsie. "Be a good little witch, and see you next time," says Pooka. Okay, you guys, head over to the pookapages.com and get your issue. This issue is packed with lots of great things, like in the Little Book of Shadows, how to use sunflowers for shyness. In the Kitchen Witch, there is how to make sun butter and sweet seeds and breakfast brownies. And the coloring pages are absolutely fabulous. There's a bee in there that you guys have to see. It's super cute. I hope you guys enjoyed the reading, and I will hopefully talk to you next time. Thanks!